are among greatness. Let me say that we are among greatness. Sorry about that. I just realized I had not moved our music down, but I guess I was just so excited because y'all, we are sitting amongst us is greatness. We have the one and the only Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Thank you so
He
much.
is here with us this morning, loud, live, and in person, and willing to share a little bit about the whole fire movement. If you've ever heard of that, if you haven't, don't worry. We're going to get into that. He's going to be talking about buying and selling and moving rental property. He's going to be talking about your portfolio. He's going to be talking about retirement and all of his happy spaces. And that's kind of what drew me in to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. And so, y'all, thank you for joining with us this morning. I'm going to let Dr. Ninja Turtle say good morning to us, and we will get started. You are in the right place at the right time. Go ahead, Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Hi, everybody. I am Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle, and I am a new YouTuber. I am trying to build my channel, but I'm learning. I'm learning so much every day. And so I'm happy to be here. This is really stepping outside of my comfort zone.
Mine too. I will, just for full transparency, I'm a new YouTuber, just like Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle is. And I started my YouTube journey in January 2024. I posted my first video the last week of January 2024. So think about New Year's resolutions. And I was bound and determined not to let the new year end without me posting a video. And this was after even like kind of starting the YouTube channel, putting the name down in 2023. I spent a whole year and never posted not one video. And then, y'all, I started my channel as a faceless channel, right? So just me talking, doing what I do. And this is Kendi K. All day, just doing what I do. And then about November, October, I stuck my toe in the water and showed my face. And in January, I got real serious about YouTube. And I'm talking January 2025. So Dr. Ninja Turtle and I are both relatively new YouTubers. Not relatively new YouTubers, we are new YouTubers. So I thank you all for joining in with us. We've got some folks already in the chat. I see good morning, Roots and Waves. Good morning, Jared Talks. Good morning, Gemini Diva. Thank you all for joining us. Bambi has stopped through. Queen's Alchemy has stopped through to say hello to us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for the encouragement from Queen's Alchemy. Thank you so much. Y'all, we're going to go ahead and get started if that's okay with everyone.
Now, I do not see the chats from my channel, if anyone is on my channel. I just don't know.
Do you see the chats? Give us just a second. Do you see the chats along the right-hand side of your screen in StreamYard, Dr. Ninja?
I do not. No, I just see Queen Alchemy on the screen. But it says private chat and comment, but that's it.
Are you in StreamYard?
I am. So we're live. We'll keep going. I'm good.
Well, Queen's Alchemy is more of a pro on StreamYard, so it looks like you might be able to private chat with Queen's Alchemy, and maybe she can direct you. And I'm sorry we did not double check that. Azaleen, welcome in. I hope I'm saying your name. But I am seeing everyone's comments from Dr. Ninja Turtle's channel and from my channel. However you logged into this space,
then I'm good.
I am seeing that. Coach Mean Reen has joined the conversation. And so let's go ahead and get started. This one is for you, Dr. Ninja Turtle. Please do tell us why the name Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Well, okay, first of all, I have to tell you guys that I am Donatello, right? Which is the purple Ninja Turtle. And I did not know about the Ninja Turtles when I was given the name, right? I rode motorcycles with the Buffalo Soldiers, which is the largest African American motorcycle club in the country. And what we do is we ride around the country to other chapters in other states and raise money for charity, for their local charities in their state, like school scholarships and those kinds of things. And so when I joined this motorcycle club, someone named me Ninja Turtle because everybody has a name. And part of it was because I wore all of this motorcycle gear that all you could see was just my face. And so I was named Ninja Turtle. So I looked up the Ninja Turtles and I picked Raphael, which is like the red Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
And somebody said, do you realize that he's the one that always starts fights? And so I said, wait a minute, I don't want to be that one. And they said, Donatello is the smart one. And so I moved over and I'm the purple Ninja Turtle. And so what you'll see on my live is my motorcycle vest, of which I designed my own Ninja Turtle. And he has a doctoral cap, and he has a diploma, and he's standing on a stack of textbooks. And so that was my own design of my own Ninja Turtle. So when I was riding with the club, everyone called me Ninja Turtle. Now that I'm not in the club anymore and I ride with people in my local community, because we ride and we raise money for charity again, I'm all about community service. That's going to sort of come out here. But they just call me Turtle. And so some people on YouTube call me Fire, they call me Doctor, doesn't matter. You know, you call me anything you want.
We are going to call you Dr. Ninja Turtle, and now we know that you are, in fact, Donatello. That's the purple Ninja Turtle, right?
Yes.
Wow, Dr. Ninja Turtle. Well, thank you for joining us today for Coffee and Conversations. This is Kendi K. All day. Y'all, thank you all for your support. Thank you for rocking with us. Y'all, Kendi K is new to all of this, and so you just have to be patient with us and give us some grace in these YouTube streets. We're talking about financial freedom with Dr. Ninja today, and our friends at Fidelity Investments, and no, this is not sponsored, but our friends at Fidelity Investments say that financial freedom is flexibility and choices with your money, potentially pursuing passions or spending more freely, even if you are still working. Do you agree with that definition of financial freedom? I kind of want to go with, tell us about the FIRE movement and what financial freedom and financial independence mean, however you want to do that, Dr. Ninja.
Well, the FIRE movement, and I can't speak for the entire FIRE movement. However, this is my understanding and how it relates to me, is the FIRE movement is about freedom, just like it says here. It's not a specific number. A lot of people think financial independence is millions of dollars. It doesn't have to be, right? It could be hundreds of dollars. What it means is that you have the ability to choose to work and make work optional. So you can, there are people, and I'm talking about different YouTube channels, but there are people who just live on a farm and they just survive off the farm and they don't need a lot of money. And now what they've done is this family has moved to Thailand. So whatever money they make from YouTube, they make plenty of money to live in Thailand. And so it's however you define financial independence. And so personal finance is personal, right? So some people do YouTube channels, right? And I'm going to go ahead and talk about something I was going to talk about a little bit later because I want to give this example. Okay. There's this young couple in Canada that quit working when they were about 28 years old. They quit their corporate jobs. And this guy and his girlfriend, they started a YouTube channel. And they are paying themselves as a corporation. And they are now 30 and are well on their way to becoming millionaires, right? Now, they don't have $1 million, but this goes into one of the parts of FIRE, because there are different levels of fire, right? There is barista fire, where you become a barista at Starbucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have the ability to quit your corporate six-figure job because you've saved enough money that your money will grow on its own in the stock market or wherever. And you can just take a job at Starbucks that just gives you insurance. So that's barista fire. That's sort of the beginning, right? There's coast fire, where people save up a lot of money early on in their career, and then they don't save any more. Because let's say by the age of 35, I'm making up a number there, but by the age of 35, they have saved up $200,000. Well, that $200,000, by the time they get to be 65, will have grown to $3.5 million. Now, I didn't do any math on any of those numbers, but that's a generalization of how so. And now they won't save any more money. They'll just live their life. They'll go through corporate America. They'll go on vacations, but they don't need to save anymore. So that's coast fire. A lot of people are coast fire. There is, I'll just move right on to fat fire, right? Which is the highest level of fire, is what we call it, fat fire. That's somebody that has $5 million in their brokerage account, or in some other asset. And they could spend $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month. They could go on vacation. They could do this. They could do that. That is the ultimate. Not everybody wants to get there. See, so some people get there. Other people don't want to get there. And so the point is, there's various different levels of fire, right? And like you said, you can still work, right? I retired early at the age of 58 and a half from the federal government, and I took the pension, and I used the pension plus a side hustle to make up my income. And that's how some people do it. So some people still work a side hustle. We'll take YouTube, for example. A lot of people do YouTube. And when I say YouTube, I mean all of the different social medias, because I don't do them all. But some people, when I say YouTube, they may be doing, what's the new one on Facebook? The chat feature, Threads. Some people are doing Threads. Some people are doing Instagram. They're doing all of them. I only do YouTube. And so, which leads into when I started my YouTube channel, I made a decision on the day that I was going to start the YouTube channel, that one, it was going to be about financial literacy, and two, that because I'm financially free. Now, again, doesn't mean rich. It just means I have enough to survive and pay my bills. What I decided was, my channel is not about getting money. It's not. It's about donating to the homeless in my community. So I made that decision from day one, and I said, I'll never sell a course. I will never put out like a Cash App or something. I don't do Cash App, just so everybody knows. I'll never put out a Cash App. I'll never sell a course. My channel is to inform people. That, because I talk to people and I ask them, have you ever heard of the FIRE movement? Right? I'm in a store and I'm talking to someone and they've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. So people do not know that if you save a little bit of extra money, you can become financially free, whatever that means to you. Right? And so I talked about the young couple who stopped working at 28 and started doing YouTube full time. And they make a living at it. The other people that I want to talk about, this is another end of the spectrum, right? Which is another couple out of Canada. They both retired. They sold their house in Canada. They own a house in Brazil, and they travel the world. And that's what they do in their retirement. But they use credit card points, which is a whole nother part of the FIRE movement. Some people use credit card points to travel. See, now I do not. Just so you know, there's so many various different ways to do it, and no way is right or wrong, but you do have to know yourself, yes. Right? So If you are not good with credit cards, like me, then you do not have a ton of credit cards. These people, they have a bunch of credit cards. They have a spreadsheet that tells them how many points they get from like American Express. Some people are very into this. And so what they do is, it's called Geo-Arbitrage, which is what I did when I moved from Maryland to Alabama, right? What I did was I went from a high cost of living area to a low cost of living area. And what that did was it cut my need for money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people do, some people, right? So you always have that option. And this couple, the channel is called Fire We Go. But anyway, it's just this Canadian couple. And so they spend a few months in this country, a few months in this country. They might go to Asia, where it's very inexpensive to live. And so they have a budget. And let's say their budget is $40,000 a year to live on in retirement. Well, they split that up between these countries, and they're able to live in different countries and travel the world. See, so I don't travel the world. I just live here, and my wife has a garden outside, and we just have a very simple life. Mm-hmm. And so that is just another way to get to financial freedom. And so, so what is Aslan saying? You are giving yourself time to enjoy the journey with no pressure.
Yes, you are. Can I, y'all, take a look. I just took all these notes because Dr. Ninja, he has figured it out, right? He has figured it out. I am in the learning stage. I don't know if that's Barista. I don't know if that's the fire stage, Dr. Ninja Turtle, but what you are doing is the same path that I too am on. If you know anything about Kendi K, all day, I am 49 years young. And if the Lord says the same, I'm going to be 50 in October. And I promise y'all, I promise myself that this working every day, Monday through Friday, I'm not about that life. I'm not about that life. So I am putting in the time right now and making preparation right now in real time so that I can retire early. And when I say retire early, I'm talking about that Monday through Friday grind where I am working for someone else, Dr. Ninja. I want to work for myself. Now, I'm willing to grind after 50, but it's going to be for me. Right? It's going to be me working for myself in, expanding my consultant work, which I'm doing now. So that's already passive income that I use in addition to my 9-to-5. And y'all, I just intend to expand that, just keep expanding, reducing my 9-to-5 and increasing my passive income. Right? And so I see. Y'all, we are only about 25, 30 minutes in, and Dr. Ninja has already given me 2 pages of notes. How about that? How about that? Thank you for sharing your experience with us, Dr. Ninja. I think Cutie says no more of the plantation. We are getting off of that plantation, and Queen's Alchemy is also in agreement with that. We have so many friends who have joined us. I'm just going to take a pause for the cause. I know we've got some mods on this chat. If you've got a blue jacket, if you would assist us, assist Dr. Ninja Turtle and I by dropping Dr. Ninja Turtle's link into the chat and mine as well. Appreciate you so much. Let's take a pause for the cause and let's welcome in our audience. Azleen, welcome. Good morning, Mommy Money Getter. Good morning. I was just in a live with Mommy Money Getter last night. Tell us what you're drinking on over there, Dr. Ninja Turtle, because I'm trying to get all the gems. What are you drinking on this morning?
Well, I am drinking my coffee. I have a huge coffee cup because I drink a lot of coffee. But I just want to show you this cow print on my coffee cup because I used to live in Vermont where there were cows. And so I just love cows. And so when a friend of mine who makes these cups, when she made the cow print, I said, I want a cow print cup. And so one of the things about Vermont, living in Vermont, everybody had like 20 acres, 30 acres, 100 acres. You'd look on the top of a mountain and somebody would say, I own all of that on top of that mountain up there. And so from that, I got the dream of getting a piece of land that had some land on it. See, so I was living in Maryland, just outside the DC area, and the neighbors were right next to each other, right? So I was on a hill and my next door neighbor could look down from his window into my window because I was lower on the hill. And on the other side of my house, I could look into the other neighbors' windows. And so I told my wife, I said, I want some land, right? And that dream came from Vermont, from living in Vermont. So I have almost 8 acres of land, right? And I wanted water, whether it was a pond, whether it was a creek. This land has a creek in the backyard. And so, again, this whole thing about fire, it's about living your dream, whatever your dream is. You know, your dream might be to have that BMW, or whatever, right? It's all about everybody having an individual dream. And so mine was having land, and QT was talking about the plantation, right? I have the financial freedom to travel the country. And so what I do is I get in my car and I drive around the country. I have friends in LA, and I'll drive out to LA, I'll drive to Palm Springs and spend time with friends, right? Now, my friends out there, they don't need to come here because I'm in the middle of nowhere, right? So I'm not in the middle of anything. But here's my point. Last August, I drove up to Omaha, Nebraska, and I have cousins that are in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And I met these cousins for the first time, and they told me my family history. They told me about where my great-great-grandfather is buried. And I went to see him, right? I went to see the cemetery. I also went to see, because he was a freed slave when he was 6 years old. I got to go to the town where he was a slave in Missouri and see where the plantation owner is buried. All of these things I have the freedom to do because I have the freedom to drive around the country and travel. One of the things about my job that I do is that it's independent, right? I do it online. So therefore, I can teach and do this from anywhere, right? And so we'll take this on a happier note. I went on vacation to Belize, right? And so I'm sitting on this beach in Belize with my laptop teaching my students. And I said, this is it.
Yeah.
So that's what financial freedom is to some people. Teach from the beach. So
I like that. I like that. Do it from the beach. And funny you should mention Belize, because I will be on a cruise in Belize and the Mexican Riviera at the end of October. So looking forward to that. And you also mentioned, because you have been dropping gems ever since we logged in this morning. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ninja Turtle, and to our guests who are on this live, one of them being Life with T 76. Life with T shares similar content, very accessible to those who are trying to achieve financial freedom and financial independence. T does a lot with budgeting and all of that. T, feel free to drop your link. If we have other content creators, would you be so kind? If you are a moderator, if you have a blue jacket on, please drop Dr. Ninja Turtle's link to subscribe to Dr. Ninja Turtle's channel and also to my channel. And feel free to drop your own, a link to your own channel as well. I cannot, Queen, I don't see why you're not a blue. That's weird. Anyway, so we're inside StreamYard, so I'm limited in the capabilities that I have at this moment. So I am asking mods to support us with that. But yeah, I always use my rewards points on my credit cards. Y'all, when I had tenants to move out of my property, and we're going to talk a little bit about rental property today, Dr. Ninja, because that is one place where you have really been able to increase your passive income is with rental properties. But I had tenants to move out of a rental property, and I'll tell anybody they paid their rent consistently for 5 years, which is kind of unheard of for rental property. But the stars were aligned in my favor. And I say that was the Lord's doing. But when they moved out, in that 5 years, they had really made my property their home. And so it calls for extensive renovations. So once you get over the initial sticker shock, I said, okay, well, how can I leverage this to my own benefit? And so I increased my credit line for Home Depot, and I put everything. I opened a pro account at Home Depot, not just a regular account, but a pro account. So then all of the equipment, the supplies, the material that was needed to get that house back into working condition, I put it all on the credit card. Why? Because 1 year, no interest. Why? Because as I was accumulating purchases, which were going to be required anyway, I was getting money back, right? I was getting deeper and deeper percentages off the materials that I was using and purchasing from Home Depot. And so it just all made sense. Y'all, I will tell you, the rewards programs are getting better and better with credit cards. But you said a key point there, Dr. Ninja. You have to be a person that is good with credit cards, right? You've got to be a person that understands how you primarily, I buy everything on a credit card, right? Because I'm always collecting reward points, even when I go get groceries, right? But then on regular monthly expenses like gasoline, like groceries, things like that, I also pay those off every month, right? So it's a give and take. You have to decide how you're doing that. I'm interested, Life with T, if you're still there, and those in the chat, please jump in this conversation. How do you feel about the use of credit cards and rewards programs? Are you more so like Dr. Ninja? No way, Jose. I've gotten myself out of financial debt with credit cards, and I'm not going back.
Well, and I'm going to talk about Life with T for just a second, because I want to contrast how she and I are both headed for the same path, and we're both well on our way, but we do it differently, right? Some people do not want to be a landlord. I mean, it just, and I'll go back and tell you my quick story, is that my first rental properties were up in Vermont, and I've tried to manage them myself, right? I do not manage properties myself today because I am the worst landlord you're ever going to want to meet. When someone says, well, my child won't have Christmas if we pay the rent this month, then I'm like, oh, well, then don't pay the rent. You can pay it in January. Well, then they never do, right? So the point is that I'm not a property manager, and some people don't want to manage rental properties. T believes in being debt-free, right? And like she said, she never carries a balance, right? Sometimes I'll carry a balance, but I use my balances and my lines of credit to be down payments on rental properties. So I'm buying an asset that will eventually give me income. See, so the thing is, you buy assets to cover your liabilities. And so some people do it with the stock market. They invest, heavily in the stock market, and they live off of dividends, right? I do it through real estate. So I continue to buy assets that cover my liabilities. Robert Kiyosaki, in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which almost all real estate investors, have read, that was his premise, is that you buy these assets and eventually they'll grow in value, like the appreciation on your property. Over that 5 years or longer, that property grew in value. You could borrow money against the equity. You could sell the property. You could do all kinds of you have a lot of different options. But one of the options you have is to take tax write-offs against that property. And people don't know that. They think, well, it's just about managing people and having bad tenants and the turnover, which costs money. And so you do want to keep your turnover low, right? But you're going back to T, right? T believes in being debt-free, right? I am not debt-free. I'm going to try to get to be debt-free, but I owe a lot of money. So it's going to be many, many years before I'm debt-free.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, she believes in being debt-free, which is fabulous, right? I believe in being debt-free now that I'm older, but when I was younger and trying to build wealth, it was not about being debt-free. So things change as life changes, but absolutely you can make financial freedom, whether you believe in credit cards, whether you believe in being debt-free, or whether you believe in having leverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, real quick, when 2008 happened and the housing crash happened, a lot of people lost all their properties and went bankrupt. And so they don't want to invest in real estate because, well, what happens if, that happens again? Well, what happened was people were 90% leveraged. So they only had 10% into their properties. They thought the value would go up. Well, I am only 50% leveraged. If I sold everything, I could pay everything off.
Mm-hmm.
See? I do not believe in that high leverage, which is what got people in trouble. So I'm comfortable with only 50%. Now, I would like to get down to maybe 30%, on my rentals. But part of the beauty of having rental properties is that the renters pay off your loan. See, so that is the key to building wealth, is having someone else pay off your debt. So I just wanted to share that. A lot of people don't know that about rental properties.
Yeah, absolutely. You can open home equity lines of credit, and really, essentially, you are getting credit based on your investment, and that's just using your money to make more money. And there is nothing wrong with that. Life with T is certainly dropping gems. Y'all, later in this conversation, we are going to open the panel up. If anybody wants to come on up on the stage with us and impart, T, you're certainly welcome to do that. If I can find the right buttons, I will drop that in the chat. If Life with T76 wants to join us, I don't know if she's able to. Some people are logging in at different places. Some people are driving. But if you have any questions for Dr. Ninja Turtle or for myself, this is Kendi K all day. And I'm trying to pop up as many comments that are coming in because, wow, the chat is very lively. We've got lots of folks who've got very strong opinions about money and folks who have questions. If you do have a question for Dr. Ninja Turtle, please feel free to drop that in the chat as well. And if you want to join us in real time on the stage, I'm dropping that link now.
And what I wanted to talk about was when you mentioned equity in properties, some people do it through the stock market. I watch a lady on YouTube. Most of my channels on YouTube that I watch are financial channels. And this lady talks about using the equity in her stocks to borrow money, right? And so now I'm going into a whole nother story here. But anyway, what you can do is you can borrow money against your stocks, pay it back, and you don't pay income tax on that money, right? And so it's called an SB lock, right? A lot of people don't know about that. And people with a lot of stock market money do that. And billionaires do that. Mm-hmm. So when you learn how the billionaires spend their money, then you can learn how you can do the same thing too. And so this goes into buy, borrow, die, right? And so, yeah, it's called buy, borrow, die. And this is what the billionaires do, is they buy things, then they borrow against them, and they pay that back. But when they pass away, they pass that on to the next generation, right? Without ever paying taxes on that money. And so
lean into this now, y'all. Lean into this one now.
So that is part of what I'm doing. is buy, borrow, die with my real estate. So I have a trust, and the trust says that if something happens to me, my real estate continues to pay out every month. After I pass away, then the real estate, or after my wife passes away, sorry, when I pass away, the money goes to my wife for the rest of her life. After she passes away, then the real estate is sold and the money goes to charity. So the point is that we're never paying taxes on that money. Now, the other thing that real estate people do is called the 1031 exchange, right? Where you can sell your real estate and then buy a bigger piece of real estate and never pay taxes on the gains. So if your property that you have, if you sold it, you could buy a duplex or you could buy a 4-unit and never pay taxes on the amount of money you made on this sale. And you just keep growing your real estate portfolio that way. I have not done a 1031 yet, but I will. I have plans to do that in the future.
Yeah, again, I'm taking notes on these things. Just so that you understand, I'm 49 years old. I have lived paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's where we're going to go next, Dr. Ninja, because Dr. Ninja has quite a story to share about being homeless and now being in this FIRE state where he's learning, he's living with financial freedom and making preparations so that his wife does not have to struggle, so that they're not struggling now. And how did I end up being a landlord and essentially paying a mortgage? And every time my tenants pay their rent every 30 days, that is essentially 3 mortgage payments. That is essentially 3 mortgage payments. And so it allows me to have property in the state of Tennessee and also have property on the West Coast and live very comfortably. Because if you know anything about Pacific Northwest living, oh my goodness, y'all, prices are through the roof. And I'll tell anybody, because I can't stand it. My housing costs in the Pacific Northwest, my total housing costs, including utilities, $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month. It is just insane. So, but how did I end up that way? Because I moved. I lived in West Tennessee. And this is after college, y'all. I did like everyone else does. I moved into my own apartment after college. I moved to the state of Tennessee right after college graduation. And I lived in an apartment and I lived check to check. Sure did. I lived check to check, and I called my mama and my daddy when I was in a hole that I couldn't get out of. And thank God for the favor of parents who always valued saving. I knew I needed to save, right? I knew I needed to save, but we do what we did. We all know. I don't think we have to spend any time talking about how we get into debt, because I think we all are very well versed in that. But it's how do you get out of debt? Somebody mentioned a mommy money getter. She's asked, Dr. Ninja Turtle, how do you keep good credit when you're in survival mode? So I think that's close to living check to check. Might be just a single income versus dual incomes. Share a little bit with that, Dr.
Well,
Ninja.
and I will tell you, when I came out of the homeless shelter at the age of 25, okay, so I'm 25 years old in a homeless shelter, I came out, all my credit was bad. I had to get a secured credit card and start there. And I had to get one for $500. And I think I had to give them $700 to get the $500 secured credit card. But I made my payments on time, right? One of my philosophies in life is be where you said you were going to be and do what you said you were going to do. And so that's what I did with those credit cards. And that's how I built my credit. And so today they loan me an ungodly amount of money based on the fact that, in the past, I've paid, on time. So I just wanted to share for money, what is it? Mommy money getter. Is that
Mommy money getter. Oh, I'm sorry. I took it off the screen. Mommy money
no, no,
getter.
I just wanted to share because this is the kinds of things that I talk about on my channel and the kinds of things that I teach in my community through a free financial literacy class that I give every month in my community. Is that if you want to improve your credit, you do it a little bit at a time. You just do it a little bit at a time. And if you can only save $5, then save $5 out of a paycheck, right? If you can only save $1.50, you start there and you build it up to $5 and you build it up to $10. It starts small. It does not have to be, well, I have $1,000 extra. No, you start where you are. And so that's what I do is I help people in my community get away from the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And I learned that from another YouTuber who did that in her community. And I said, that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, that's what I started small too, just like you. Just start saving, okay? The best way for you to achieve financial freedom or even financial independence is to don't spend as much as you earn. We need to save something. And I thank God for parents that always taught us to save something. And my mom and dad were working class, right? Um, you know, we were not rich at all. And I remember in elementary school, my first grade teacher asking me to look in my backpack and see if I had my lunch money envelope. And there were times that I did not. And but I thank God for that first grade teacher, and because I never went hungry, and I believe I know now it was because she paid that for my family. And it is what it is. And so that's what I did after college is I just knew, because my mom had disciplined me, especially her daughters, to save, to save, to save, to save. And even if you have to go back and pinch on it, or even if you have to put some new tires on your car, at least you have something to start with. Y'all, the chat is blowing up. So this is needed. Dr. Ninja, you mentioned a secured credit card was one of your first credit cards for those who don't have a high credit score. Would you just share what that is, if you don't mind?
Well, what I need to share is that when I did this, it was 38 years ago. Okay, so we need to come up to date, right? Okay. And what we do today is there are all kinds of different apps that people can get that will help them build credit. They're like secured credit cards, but they're online apps nowadays. Self, I think, is one. There is another one that people are getting. I think it's called Belk. But anyway, they use it to pay their rent, and it reports their rent payment to the credit bureau to raise their credit, and they get reward points. So I'm hearing about that card nowadays, that people are using that. So my point is that this is today. What I talked about was, quite a few years ago, almost before the internet. But today there are many options for people who want to start building their credit. And they're the same as secured credit cards.
Yeah. Damo Straco has joined this conversation, and Damo, use a self account and just save money. And I typically, y'all, every paycheck, it's just automatically set up with our bank. And thank God that we do have all these bank apps now to go with our accounts. And that's another thing that I do is I have money in more than one financial institution. I make good use of my credit unions because they typically give higher interest rates than your bank. So check those out. And it just automatically, when my payroll checks come in, money is moved straight into the next day, moved straight into savings accounts, money market accounts, things like that. So y'all, start little. I have an auntie, shout out to Auntie Emma, but Auntie Emma, the entirety of her life, she always talked about her Christmas club account. Y'all remember that Christmas club accounts where you save a little bit and then come November, December, you take out that money and so presumably to do something, a big home improvement or buy gifts, right? And she continues that saving practice. Um, and thank God that she talked to me as a child about that, as a teen, about the Christmas club account. And it put it into my head. It reinforced that idea of don't spend everything that you get, save. And I'll tell you, you get more towards financial freedom and financial independence with age, right? Because with age, you find that I don't need another stitch of clothing. Candy K doesn't even carry a purse, okay? Because I like to feel my money. I like to feel my money on me. I like to feel my cards on me. In my pocket, it will go, right? Or I've got on a little fanny pack. The only purses I have are purses that people have given me for gifts. So, I don't need, and if you buy a good leather purse, you'll have it for a lifetime. Amen. Right? So I don't need more things, right? I want to spend 50 and beyond doing whatever it is I want to do. I want to work hard now so that I can make good choices and enjoy life, right? Because folks are dropping dead every day, y'all. That's why I'm on the road to better health. In addition to making sure that my financial health of my portfolio is also healthy as well. Get the body, get the mindset healthy as well. Somebody's talking about layaway. Do y'all remember layaway? I remember layaway. My parents absolutely used layaway at Christmas times. Yeah, yeah. And I think if we had continued to use layaway, not so many people would be in these credit card issues that we're having these days. Y'all, good things. Let me mention some names in the chat because the chat is flowing, and I want everyone to know that we value you being here. Gemini Diva is with us and says amen to everything we're saying. Queen's Alchemy, Serene in the Making. Welcome in, friend. Life with T 76. Is still talking about that layaway. That layaway is bringing back memories for everybody. Yes, yes. Damo Straitgo, Homebody Trish. And Homebody Trish is giving us a good reminder here. Build the habit is the initial step for you to do better financially. And y'all, I'm learning so much from Dr. Ninja Turtle. And y'all, it doesn't happen overnight. I think Dr. Ninja Turtle would tell you that it does not happen overnight. It is just time. It is a lot of discipline. And Dr. Ninja Turtle, would you mind sharing? Has it all been roses and sunshine and sunny? Because we see all these fabulous views with you sitting on the lake, doing absolutely nothing. Has it always been that way for you?
No. And what I need to say is that I've made a lot of financial mistakes. I've learned a lot from watching YouTube channels over these last few years about how to be financially responsible. But I have made in my younger days all the mistakes that everybody makes, right? Every time I got a promotion at work, I bought a new car because the payments were only $100 a month more. See, that's where they get you, right? They get you in the buying. I don't do that anymore. I have a paid off car today, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not planning on buying another new car unless I could pay cash for it, which I've never done. But let me tell you about one of my biggest financial mistakes is when I first moved to Vermont, I bought a brand new car and I cashed out my 401k, the one thing you're not supposed to do, right? And I was about 35 years old. So I'm going to come back to the point of your age and starting later in life to become financially independent. But I'm 35 years old. I don't know any better. Mm-hmm. I cash out my 401k and I buy myself a little convertible, right? Because that's what I think I want. Well, I started going to college at that time and I needed money to pay tuition. So I sold that car 9 months after I bought that car for 50% of the price of the car. I lost 50% of my money in 9 months.
Wow.
I have made a lot of financial mistakes, which has gotten me to where I am today, where I do not want those financial mistakes. And so one of the things that you talked about that I really wanted to touch on was that when you get paid, that money automatically goes to where it's supposed to go. I have learned to use automation in my finances. So when I get paid, that money automatically goes. And what I do is I pay myself first. That's the key. That's the key. We were talking about layaway, right? Make yourself the layaway. Make yourself the person that gets paid every month for that future item. So, of course, I pay myself first, then I buy whatever I want to buy that is, let's say, a splurge, right? I just bought a chainsaw because I have trees that have fallen down in my yard, and I actually need to cut down trees. I've never used a chainsaw, don't know, but I bought a chainsaw. And so my point is that you can buy extra things after you pay yourself first.
Yes.
The last thing I'm going to talk about real quick is when you talked about not needing things, right? I am a financial minimalist, right? I don't have a whole lot of these shirts left. I wore suits for many, many years at work, and I donated all those suits to Goodwill. And I said, I just don't need that many suits anymore. And so I live on less so that my money can grow, and I invest the rest. So live on less, invest the rest. There you go.
Dr. Ninja just dropped another gem. Live on less so that you can invest the rest. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I hope you are too. Y'all, this is Kendi K all day. And we have Life with Dr. Ninja Turtle as our guest this morning for coffee and conversations. I finished my coffee and now I am hydrating with water. I hope that you are too. Y'all drop in the chat. Favorite color, is it purple or is it blue, Dr. Ninja Turtle? What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is black because
Okay.
I ride motorcycles. So I ride
Harley, y'all. He rides a Harley.
I ride a Harley, and Harley people wear black. You know, it's sort of our thing. Now, not all of them. I have friends that love orange because my friend has an orange motorcycle. So he wears orange everything, orange hat, everything. But I believe
now we need some black hearts for Dr. Ninja Turtle in the chat. Black hearts in the chat.
So yeah, that's just my color because I'm a biker, right? And so I tried to look like a really mean biker, right? But I'm really not, you know.
You are not. You have failed at that, Dr. Ninja Turtle.
In my younger days, when I was with the Buffalo Soldiers, I rode through snow, I rode through rain. We ride through anything because we are soldiers. Well, now I just ride on sunny days. So
I don't know. I hope you can see all these black hearts. They are less apparent than some of the other colors like red. Y'all just send out some hearts. Put some red hearts up there to go with them. Dr. Ninja Turtle, the chat is blowing up because we all need this information. We all want to talk finances. We all want to do better, right? We're all in a posture of expectation, and we're all in a growing and learning level. And these are conversations that should be the norm for us. These are conversations that should be the norm, not the exception. I noticed that you have said several times that you started learning more about how to get your finances in order in the hopes of retiring early. You said you've already retired, and you're now you've got several income streams coming in, but you learned a lot of that from YouTube. And so just a reminder, y'all, you can get anything from YouTube, right? You can get a headache. You can learn how to cook. You can exercise. You can work out with Coach Mean Green and Lala the High Vibe Coach and all of the things. And you can get some good, sound financial advice from folks like Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle, with T. Let me make sure I get T's Life with T 76. I should have known
Mhm.
that, but I just wanted to double check it. All this information is readily available, and for what? For free. For free. Dr. Ninja Turtle, I also heard you saying that charity and giving away money. Tell us how that factors into your financial decisions.
Well, I am so blessed. Okay, let me start there. I am very blessed to be where I am today. And it didn't happen just by accident, right? It happened because I had people teaching me along the way. You know, I had real estate mentors that taught me how to buy rental properties. I had bankers that taught me how to leverage those rental properties to buy more rental properties, right? So, because I'm so blessed and because I don't need any money, right? I don't. I have the ability to give back. And along with the Buffalo Soldiers, one of the reasons I joined them was because they did charity in their community, right? And the president of my chapter, he would always say, do good in the hood. And that's what I have never forgotten. So no matter where I live and I move from place to place, I try to do good in my community. So I volunteer at the homeless shelters. I feed the homeless in my community. And I do these charity motorcycle rides, you know, where we raise money for, let's say there's a baby that's having surgery and their parents need a little bit of help, right? We will all ride, and all my motorcycle friends do this. And so that's why I'm in that group of motorcycle friends, because that's where I met them, was on a charity ride. And so that's what we do. That's what we do. Now, we also go to the beach and go to restaurants. I'm not saying that's the only thing we do,
Mhm.
but the point is that I have to give it away. I have to give it away because somebody helped me to get to where I am. I didn't do all this by myself. And so therefore I owe to pay it forward. And a friend of mine taught me that. Always pay it forward. So I will say I'm a minimalist and I don't spend money, right? However, now that I'm financially free, when I go on vacation, I will drop 100% tip. And I don't care how big the dinner bill is. It's 100% tip. I can do that today because it makes somebody else's life a little bit nicer for that day. You know, my wife and I, we were in, I'm trying to think if this was, I think it was Key West. But anyway, recently we were in Key West and we went just to a little vendor and the guy was just selling fish and that kind of thing. And so we bought the meal and I gave this guy 100% tip on our meal. And he walked over to us and he said, I think you've made a mistake, you know, because not many people do that. See, but for me, you can do that when you're financially free.
You're absolutely right. I do. I love to make people's day. I love to, because what's wrong with spreading joy? What I wonder what this world would be like, especially in these uncertain times in the US. What would this world be like if we gave everybody just a little bit more grace? If we extended grace to our neighbor, known and unknown, the world would be a much better place. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Y'all, we're talking all things finance, rental properties. I don't know if I finished my story, but that's how I ended up having a rental property. Is that I moved from one side of West Tennessee to East Tennessee, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this house? Am I going to sell it? And the reason why I did not sell it, and I think again, God ordained that thing. I moved to East Tennessee, and 7 days after I moved to East Tennessee, my father passed, and very suddenly. And so I didn't have time to sell the house. I didn't have time to do anything. I was just trying to pick up the pieces after experiencing, the loss of our father. And so I rented the house out then. And And I'm so glad that I did, because it really has become passive revenue. Now, are there carrying costs? Absolutely. You know, largely, you've got to put their deposit, their security deposit has to remain in escrow. And by most state laws, in most states, that has to happen. And you've got to be ready, right? If they call, and this really did happen, and I'm just being honest about rentals and being a landlord. When they call and say, my husband hit the garage door with his car and now it won't go up, or it's off track. And I said, he did what now? And so they want you to fix it, or the plumbing is stopped up, but they don't know why, right? Well, what did you put down that toilet, right? But still, because they pay their rent consistently, you've got to be able to step right in there, and you've got to have a plumber on standby. Then I moved out of the state. Not only did I I moved to the other side of the state, I moved out of Tennessee, and I still needed to be able to make sure that their needs were met, because again, in some states, the renters have more rights than the landlord. So again, when people get down and begin to think about that, you've got to weigh the pros and the cons of that thing. And it's a lot to consider. So consider conversations like these, where you can ask good questions and ask people for the good and the bad. Because I think when we talk about acquiring rental properties and buying and short selling and flipping and all of that thing, people only talk about the best of it, right? When they've made 50% profit off of the thing, or more. But they don't talk about the downside of that. I have my last tenants in the one house paid their rent on time for 5 years. But the downside to that is they were in that property for 5 years, and they lived in that property like it was theirs, like they were the owners in that property for 5 years as well. And I saw an interesting statistic, Dr. Ninja Turtle, and it said that now, currently in 2025, less than 15% of the housing market in this country is owned by individuals. When we think about rental properties, I'm talking about the rental market, and we think about the mom and pop, or someone as you, who has several rental type properties in there as part of their financial portfolio, less than 15% of that is owned by individuals. There is a huge, and I think that is to our detriment, the conglomerates, the large property, sometimes slumlords, these big entities that own, 10,000 properties across the country. And, you might be responding to computer and making your payments electronically and things like that. That really scares me. That really scares me. So if you do have property in your family, I know on the Black Star Network, Roland Martin talks about, and he had a segment titled What to Do with Big Mama's House, right? If you have property in your family, do what you can. Y'all work with your other family members and try to make sure, number one, that you have a plan for that property if and when Big Mama passes on, because that's one thing the good Lord gives us at our birth. He gives us our birth date, and the good Lord also knows our death date. So we know that one thing, death is sure for everybody. And so we need to make preparations for that. Whatever you have, who gets your car? Who gets your property, and who's going to manage that transition as we resolve your things at your death. Y'all, you can say that's morbid, but it's called, that's what the rich folk do. And we don't have to take everything from them, but that is something that they do. They plan for the future, and they plan for those things that we know are sure. And death is one of them. So y'all keep those things in mind. And that was the Black Star Network, and highly recommend them as a news source as well. Let's do this. Let's do this. I think it is time for us to put Dr. Ninja Turtle into the hot seat. Y'all, thank y'all for blowing up that chat for Dr. Ninja Turtle. Let's send him some hearts of any color. Someone says Doc is a great man. That was life with T all around. Clearly, we have someone after God's heart in front of us. Y'all, thank y'all for joining us. And Gemini Diva says it's never too late to plan. Are you ready for the hot seat, Dr. Ninja Turtle?
Yes.
He says yes. Cue the music that we don't have, right? Okay. This is this shouldn't be too bad for you, Dr. Ninja Turtle. I have a couple questions for you just to break it up just a little bit for us. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. Here we go. Which would you rather, a cabin in the woods or a beachside vacation?
Well, I'm going to say a beachside vacation.
Okay. Do you have anything coming up?
Well, yes, I'm going to Vancouver, Canada in July, and that'll be my first time going to Canada. I did ride my motorcycle to Canada once, but this will be my first time staying in Canada. And so, yes, so that's going to be fun.
Okay. So, does anybody... Yeah, I'm not a woodsy person. I love being outdoors, but I don't like the bugs. And so the beach sounds much better for me as well. And when you said Vancouver, I thought you were going to say Vancouver, Washington, which is my home state now. But when people say Vancouver, they're largely talking about Canada and not the great state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest. Here's $200, Dr. Ninja Turtle. If you got $200 for your birthday, what would Dr. Ninja Turtle do with that $200?
I would spend it on my puppy. I don't spend money on myself. I just don't. And so I get in trouble for that because I just don't spend money on myself. Okay.
So you would spend it on the 200. You would drop 200 on the puppy. Now, I'm going to give you a chance to explain that further. What would you buy for the puppy?
I would find something. I would be over at PetSmart. You know, my wife and I, we have this puppy that we just got back in September. So we've only had him for 7 months or 8 months. And his birthday is in June. So he'll be 1 year old in June. So we would throw him a party with that money. We would throw him a 1 year birthday party.
So y'all are the folks that send out evites to the puppy's birthday party. Got it.
Yes. Got it. He is in doggy daycare this morning. So we're thinking at his doggy daycare where they have other small dogs that we're going to throw a party at the doggy daycare.
Oh, wow. Now, do you take your puppy to the doggy daycare or do they pick him up on the van? Because that's how they do it on the West Coast, in the Pacific Northwest, at least. They literally pick your animal up.
They can here in our town. They can. But no, my wife drops him off on her way to work.
Wow. So some friends have said they would spend their time in a cabin. Some people are saying that they are beach friends. Oh, here's an interesting response from Homebody Trish. She says, if I got $200, she would save 75% of that and spend the rest on food. Y'all, have you noticed the rising cost of food? I put some celery in my online app for Walmart. You know, I'm a Walmart shopper. And y'all, that celery was $2 and some change for celery. Yeah, y'all, you probably really want to increase your budget for food costs because they are on the rise. I'll tell you something else I noticed too at Sam's Club. They had the produce door rolled down. They had, the big room where they have all of the produce and vegetables, fresh vegetables. It was rolled down. And so was the dairy door where the eggs are stored. Why? Completely out of stock. completely out of stock. Y'all better watch the signs. The Bible says watch and pray and make preparations at the same time. Make preparations at the same time. Azaline is saying something. Oh, when is your birthday month, Dr. Ninja Turtle?
It is in June.
Oh, this month.
Yes. But I want to talk really quick about what Homebody Trish just shared in the chat, because I meant to talk about this earlier. She said that she said that she would save 75% and put the rest to buy food, right? That 75% is her savings rate, right? And so I want to talk about savings rate really quick. I tried to have a 70% savings rate, meaning that 70% of the money that came in, I saved and invested. Meaning I'm trying to live on 30% of the money that comes in. You can't help but build wealth with a high savings rate. And a lot of people in the FIRE movement have a really high savings rate. Now, Dave Ramsey says 15% of your income throughout your working career. The Money Guy Show on YouTube says 25% of your money should be saved and invested. And Homebody Trish has this right, 75%. Now, I'm older and I started late in the FIRE movement, sort of like at about your age. And so I say 50 to 75% because I started later. If you start at 20 years old, yes, you could save 10%. But if you start at 45 or 50, you need to have a very high savings rate. So I liked what she brought up about this $200 is you save quite a bit of it and then you spend 25%, right? I would spend $200 on my dog because I'm already saving 70%. See, so that I did want to talk about the savings rate. A lot of people do not know how to calculate their savings rate. And I have a video out there that shows how you calculate your savings rate. So I don't normally give a plug for a video, but I happen to have one out there that talks about how you calculate your savings rate.
Okay. And so I am dropping Dr. Ninja Turtle's link into the chat. Y'all don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Ninja Turtle's channel. Don't forget to like this stream and subscribe. This is Kendi K all day. Please subscribe to Dr. Ninja Turtle and to Kendi K all day. If you are liking this content, I'm certainly enjoying this whole conversation. And Homebody Trish makes the point that, and that's why I kind of formulated it, $200 was given to you. Like, you know how your friends drop some money in your birthday card. If you had an extra $200 as a birthday gift, Homebody Trish says, so then that becomes disposable income. That means that this is what's left over after bills have been paid, because these were all gifts. So she said that's a great way when you can just tuck some money into savings and really drop a whop, right? If you are living on a fixed income and you don't have a lot to go into savings or into that Christmas club account, whatever you want to call it, dropping a $200 in there, or 75% of that $200, is a great way to just begin to build a nest egg. And don't you like just opening up the apps on your phone and looking at your money? I love to do that. And I'll tell you, I'm just being very transparent here. The reason why I have to have multiple revenue streams is because at my father's death, which was so unexpected to me, my mom, and my siblings, we then decided to retire our mom. Again, my parents were working class folks, and my mom had put in so many years of hard work trying to do the best she could for her husband and her children, and me included. And so we wanted to do that for our mom. So not only do I have money that just goes automatically to my savings accounts and my Roth account, and y'all, it's worth it to maximize your retirement accounts because your employer is paying a percentage, and y'all, that is pre-tax dollars, right? So the more you put into your own retirement accounts, the less taxable income you have that will be taxed from the government. Y'all, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. But I also have money that automatically goes to my mom's account so that whatever she does with it, right? She does not have to worry about that. We became her employer, so to speak. And so that is the diligence, and I'm happy to do that for her, and I want to be able to continue to do that for her. So again, multiple revenue streams allow you to do that. And y'all, I want you to think about that. What can you do right now? Think about your main job and what expertise do you have due to that main job, due to your education, your post-secondary education, your training, or your life skills that you can leverage into a passive income, right? Even if it's putting on makeup, count me in. You can show Kendi K how to do makeup, and I do use Cash App because some friends don't, right? And we can split the bill easier that way, but I prefer Zelle. But what can you do to increase your passive income or open up another line of income for yourself beyond your day-to-day job? Y'all, this is great conversation. Welcome in, Positive Crash Outs blogs.
Oh, yes.
Welcome in, Queens Alchemy, Life with T76. You guys have been rocking with us from the start of this conversation. I hope I'm not missing too many folks. Homebody Trish has been checking in. Azalina Richino checking in with us again. Thank you all for rocking and riding with us. Gemini Diva. So many friends have come and are still with us. Ellie's Endeavors. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Damo Straco. Teresa J. Miss Paula Does Retirement has checked in with us as well. Y'all, friends who are so many who are interested in this content. We thank y'all for rocking and riding with us. Dr. Ninja, we talked about, are there any other first steps that you would recommend for someone who might be hearing this type of conversation for the first time? And they're like, okay.
Yes. Two things. I want to talk about Roth because you mentioned Roth a moment ago. But when you said first steps, that reminded me. So I'm going to talk about those two things.
Okay.
People think that in order to invest in real estate, you have to have a lot of money. That's what they think, to either buy a house or put a down payment on a house. A lot of people start by house hacking, which is you're sharing your living space to some degree with other people, which lowers your cost. So I want to talk about how I started in real estate. Okay. So what I did was I bought a 3-bedroom house that had a basement, right? And I made myself a little apartment in the basement. It had its own walkout. I was able to rent out the whole top of the house, the whole 3-bedroom house, and live in the basement for free. And I did that for 2 years and then sold that and then bought a duplex where I was living on one side and had a renter living on the other side. So that's how you can start for very little money down. You don't have to have a ton of money to start in real estate. And I'm going to get off of that story, but I wanted to tell that story that in real estate, there are 3 things. One of these 3 you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up your comfort, or you're going to have to give up your money, or you're going to have to give up your time. Those are the 3 things to get started in real estate. When you talked about a Roth, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I do Roth conversions, right? I convert because I'm over 50. I can convert from, actually I'm over 59. So anyway, long story short, I can convert from a traditional account into a Roth, right? Now, when you do that, you want to pay the taxes going into the Roth out of your own money. You want 100% of what you're converting to go into the Roth, if possible, right? Now, if you're over 59 and a half, you can use some of your traditional money to pay for that Roth, to pay the taxes, But if you're under 59 and a half, you have to come out of pocket to pay the taxes on that conversion. And so I just wanted people to know that I'm a big fan of the Roth, because if you convert most of your money to a Roth, later in life, you can decide where you pull your money from, and you can earn a 6-figure income and pay 0 in taxes because you're choosing from which pot you pull your money. And people need to know that. And again, I have another video on my channel talking about exactly how you do that on $100,000 income and pay 0 taxes in retirement.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for, do you see how easily Dr. Ninja Turtle is able to talk about these issues? And I wish that we would be able to have more conversations just like these, where folks can ask questions, get an answer that is relevant and that is accessible. Because sometimes, you know, you talk to folks at your job, you talk to the Fidelity folks at your job, you talk to Schwab, you know, about investments and all those things, and it's a bit intimidating. It really is. It's quite intimidating. You mentioned something. It made me think as you were talking. It made me think you talked about your 401k, and when I purchased my first home, so first time homeowner, right? Yay to home ownership. First time homeowner. I actually did, because I'm talking about, I was in my twisting 20s, y'all. I was in my twisting 20s. And so, but I was right then, you know, the wheel started churning. I said, hey, I need to, you know, buckle down this thing here. I need to, and I got sick because every year, if you're renting, that rent is going to do what? Go up. Right. So I said, no. It's cheaper if I buy a home. And so I did. And I will tell you that I used my 401k, right? Because I was in my late 20s and I took a loan out on my 401k because I was nowhere near retirement age. I wouldn't do that now, but you pay it back. And I mean, it was I put it on automatic payments, and I was paying myself back, and that created the down payment. I also did I had an FHA loan. And at that time, the standard loan was for 30 years. And I think nowadays most loans are running about 15 years for the loan. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it. And all I wanted was to get out of renting an apartment. That's what I did. And so they, of course, you know, they preview and they want you to max out your loan amount. Nope. Because what I will never forget this either, y'all. I went, Home Depot was having a class, and who knew that they had, I think they were using like their break room at the back of the store. And they were having some type of class that you could just walk into, and about home ownership. And it was kind of like a realtor person. It might have been a finance company or something. Ooh, y'all wait, I've got to plug in. Why are we not plugged in? Hold tight. Start talking, Dr. Ninja. Let me make sure I'm plugged in.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Life with T has a comment in here, and she is saying that when she buys a piece of land, that she's going to put possibly a tiny house on it. And she is correct. That is house hacking. There are so many ways, like in different states, what they're allowing now is an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. So out on the West Coast, where there's not much land and high prices, they are allowing you to build an additional living unit in your backyard. And so a lot of people are house hacking just by doing that. I could do that here on my land, right? I have plenty of land to do it, but my wife does not want people driving down our driveway to get to, you know. So this is our little spot, right? And so there was something else, Kendi, that you mentioned, and I cannot remember.
I know, there's so many things coming up, and great comments in the chat too, y'all. Thank y'all.
Yeah, and what it was the 401k loan, right? So I'm going to tell everybody just how impulsive I am, just so you guys get to understand, you know, that I'm like a real human that, you know, just does stuff, right? What happened was my wife and I were living in my condo, right? When I met my wife, she had a house and she moved into my condo, and there was very limited parking at the condo. And so I bought my car, the car that I have now. I had that car for 2 days, and the condo towed my car. I thought somebody stole my brand new car. So I found out that they said I illegally parked in a visitor spot or something because there was limited parking. And so
that's how they do on the West Coast, y'all. That's how they do.
Yeah, well, I borrowed money from my 401k, and I bought a 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage. And I told my wife, I said, that's it. That's it. No more, and we haven't owned a condo since. So I don't do HOAs. I don't do condos. I don't do HOAs. I just don't like them.
Right.
But my point is, I borrowed from my 401k loan, and I paid it back.
Yeah.
And, and then because I'm a veteran and I was in the military, I was able to refinance our house through a VA loan, right? So there are many, many ways to get loans. You could do VA, you could do USDA, right? Very low down payment.
I know some folks who've done that, yes.
So there are many, many ways to skin the cat is my point. But I want to make sure I say that real estate is not the best way for everyone. It's just not. A lot of people just put their money in the stock market through retirement accounts, and they become 401k millionaires. And that's fine. I don't have a big stock market account. I've just never been big in the stock market. I just haven't. So, but I did build what I have from the ground up. And now I'm starting to diversify and put money in the stock market. See, so now I'm building at this age a stock market portfolio.
Mm-hmm. So we're having some other questions and comments come up with friends talking about a HOA, which is a homeowners association, and it kind of, that's something to consider if you're considering buying a home to live in or to rent. Is it required that you be a member of the homeowners association? Because that too can increase your monthly housing costs or just the carrying costs of having that property or purchasing that property. And because some of these HOA fees that's a rising cost, right? But sometimes that includes the lawn service, things like that. It just all depends. So make sure that you're aware of that. If you are a veteran, then make sure that you use those veterans benefits because you're going to get a lower priced loan, a lower interest rates on that loan. And then you said USDA as well. And I do know some work associates who have used that as a way as well. All that was available to me was an FHA first time home buyer. And so that means that I was able to have a smaller percentage. I want to say I needed 3% down versus the normal 5 to 7% down, which, it worked out. It worked out in my favor, y'all. And that was back when they still did mortgage closings, by hand, right? And you signed your life away for about 2.5 hours. And to do that by myself as a single woman, y'all, I was floored. But y'all, the first night I slept in that house, and it was a good thing. It was a good thing. It made it all worth it. Someone's Life with T is talking about diversifying her portfolio. That's what I'm trying to do. The 401k millionaire route. Me too. Life with T. The 401k millionaire route. Same here. I'm trying to read. I know y'all see me over here reading because I can't look these eyes.
And I want to talk about the benefits of an HOA, right? Because I don't want to ever come off as this is a bad thing, right? It just doesn't work for me. Is HOAs are fabulous for people that want to keep their home values up and they want to keep the neighborhood looking nice. So some people love HOAs. And condos are good if you don't have a lot of money, but you want a place to live that you can own. For example, when I moved to Maryland, I moved from Miami to the DC area. And so I had a condo in Miami. And so I sold a condo in Miami and I bought a condo in Maryland. But I could not afford a single family home in Maryland near DC. See, you can't. And
the DMV, yeah, is out of this
yes.
world. Yeah.
So I bought a condo, which was all I could afford. But I said, I don't want to be a renter. Right. So do what you can do. Don't do what somebody else can do. And so that, and last thing I'm going to share real quick is you talked about being a first-time home buyer, right? When I was in Vermont and I was moving out of this basement house that I had sold, and I bought the duplex, even though this was my third property in Vermont, right? The duplex was, they gave me a first-time home buyer option. $2,000 was all I paid for a duplex.
So, yeah, I think I paid somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 because right at closing, that amount, which is normal. Like they might call you and say, "Oh, until you lock in that interest rate, it could wiggle up, it could wiggle down a little bit." And so, right before, like I literally had to go get that cashier's check, that counter checks. So, yeah. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Sorry.
No, you didn't. And I was just saying that, like you said, you can use a first-time home buyer's option and put very little money down. So it's not that you have to have $10,000 or $50,000. Some of these people on YouTube are buying $400,000 houses. You know, well, I couldn't afford that. So I buy what I can afford. So just so you know, my little place here, my wife put a cap on how much we could spend on this home here. And so when I was looking on Zillow, I had to stay under that amount. So that's it. You buy what you can afford.
Absolutely. Because I knew as a first-time home buyer over 20 years ago, y'all, I knew my parents, they owned their home, but I knew they could not pay my mortgage and theirs. So I knew I needed to stay well below what I had been approved of. And I would not let those realtors talk me above that. Because I knew what I wanted my payment to be. I wanted my payment to be substantially smaller than my apartment rent. Because again, you want to furnish the house, you want to enjoy the house, right? I see so many people nowadays who are house poor. And I mean, they're literally living, you can tell that they don't have much more beyond their mortgage payment. And I mean, everyone knows folks like that. And so be very careful of that. As you go into that, even in where you might rent, even if you're still renting, and there's nothing wrong with renting because we know that things are at a premium in this country. So just budget. And I think it's a wise tip for all of us. We should be living below our means. We should be living well below our means.
And what I wanted to add to that, because I meant to talk about this earlier, but I forgot, is knowing your net worth, right? This is just a number. And whether you're renting or whether you're an owner, if you live below your means, you can increase your net worth. As you pay down debt, you can increase your net worth. But you have to know what that net worth is, right? And it's not something that you can eat, right? So your net worth isn't like money coming in. It's not income, right? But it's knowing if you have a goal of a certain net worth, whatever that is, are you moving towards that goal? And the reason that I brought that up is because we talked about the cost of a house, right? For most people who are millionaires, their home, their primary residence, is most of their net worth, right? What I do is I keep my primary residence to be a very tiny percentage of my net worth. And so that's just me personally. But everybody calculates. Now, some people calculate their net worth without their primary residence because they say this isn't like something that makes money, right? They only count things that make money. Well, I want 90% of my net worth to be making money. And that's just personal to me. But I had to learn all this stuff watching different certified financial planners on YouTube, which is what I do, is I watch all these people that talk about retirement, that talk about how to save for retirement, where to put your money in retirement, how to draw your money down in retirement, which I haven't started doing yet. I get Social Security in a couple of years, right? I'm like eligible now, but I'm going to take it in a couple of years. And when I do, right, Social Security will cover my whole primary residence, expenses. There you go, right? So I told my wife, I said, when I get Social Security, you no longer have to put anything into this primary residence. So her money is her money, right? And she can spend it however she wants. And that's the beauty of financial independence, right? The more money I get, the other income streams that I get, it just adds to my freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where my life is today. So yes, I can be generous and I can give because I have enough streams of income that, one, I don't ever want to be homeless again. And so that is a big deal to me, to make sure, double, triple, quadruple sure, that I will never be homeless again.
I think that's pretty safe to say that Dr. Ninja will never be homeless again. And isn't that a lofty goal for all of us? Because planning strategically, right? Failure to plan is a plan for failure. Failure to plan for your future is a plan for failure. So plan. Let's plan. And I think that's why we have so many gathered on this call today, on this show today. Y'all, this is Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle, and this is Kendi K. All day. You have a special note from Shadow Scott Sweet, and He says, good evening. So I take it that Shadow Scott Sweet is from Sweden, I'm hoping, and out of this country. But so that look at that, y'all. Folks are leaned into Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle from all over this wide world, And I'll tell you something too, that blessed people bless people. Blessed people bless other people. Grace, kindness, generosity. If you put good things out into the world, nothing but goodness will come back to you. If you put good out into the world. So think about that today. What good can we put out into the world today? Y'all, I just want to remind you that this is Coffee and Conversations, and this is Kendi K. All day. Y'all, what do you do in your 9 to 5? Tell us a little bit more about what you do for passive income. What are your multiple revenue streams? If you have something, you don't have to be a content creator, but if you are, I would love to bring you up on the panel and do just what I'm doing here today with Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. I welcome you to join me for a coffee and a conversation. And you don't have to be a coffee drinker either. But just making sure that everyone knows that this opportunity is available to you as well. You can drop into the chat here and let me know that you're interested, or go to my homepage and there you'll find my contact information for how to reach me. Please reach out. This is a weekly segment, and on Wednesdays, we have 5 things that we need to talk about. So on Wednesday mornings, you can check out my channel and you'll get a reminder if you subscribe, and don't forget to set your notifications to all. Go ahead, Dr. Ninja Turtle. Tell us a little bit about your channel and how you have things set up on your channel, Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Well, I tell you, my channel is, well, one, it's starting to grow with the Are You Locked In movement, but I am learning every single day. I'm watching different people talk about how to grow your channel. And so I had to learn StreamYard for this. So that was new software. I've learned OBS software from another friend who's a content creator. And I said, how do you do that where you have your face in part of it, but you're showing a spreadsheet? I didn't know how people did these. So I asked the person. I asked at Pitt's Life just the other day, I said, how did you do that live stream? And she told me, and then I went and I figured it out.
Pitts
And
Life
so,
has checked in with us this morning too. I don't know if you saw that
yes.
in the chat.
Oh, yes, she was here. And so I'm learning. And just by watching all of you folks, like with these interviews, Queen's Alchemy, that's how I got into this.
Yeah.
Was when she was interviewing Life with
Queen
T.
is the GOAT now of these interviews.
Yes.
Her and
So-
Kids from Jay.
So that's how I got here. And my channel, I'm learning. So Life with T had to tell me that I wasn't doing lives to the public. I didn't know. So she said, Daryl, you got to click this button. So now I know. So every Friday at 10:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, I will be going live. And the reason is because my puppy is in doggy daycare. See, so I work around my puppy schedule. And just like this morning, I said, okay, I could do the interview on Monday morning because he's in puppy daycare for half a day on Mondays and a whole day on Fridays. So those are my two times. Now, who is this? Oh, God, I'm trying to think. Faith Marie Unscripted, right?
Mm-hmm.
She asked ChatGPT and she asked YouTube what was the best time for her to go live. And they told her, this is the best time for you to go live. This is when you're going to have the most people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's what she does. She follows what YouTube suggests. I'm not going to have that option. I just do what I do when I do it. And as you can tell from my first couple of lives, which I'm very new at going live, and I wouldn't do it until I had 500 subscribers because I was just terrified. Mm-hmm. So now you will get to see me every Friday, and I will become more and more comfortable going live. And hopefully people will be asking me personal finance questions, because those I'm comfortable talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Ninja Turtle. So you all have heard it here first. Dr. Ninja Turtle will go live every Friday at about 10:15 Central Standard Time. That's 11:15 on the East Coast, and that's 8:15 on the West Coast, because that's how my brain, I work off of the West Coast. So that's how my brain is, depending on what state I am sitting in. So y'all, thank you, Life with T76, who has dropped both of our subscription links into the chat. So make sure you connect with Life with Dr. Ninja Turtle and set your notifications to all. So hit that bell to be notified when Dr. Ninja Turtle is going live and when Dr. Ninja Turtle posts new videos, because his site is chock full with this type of information, and in a live format, you're sure to get lots of your questions answered. Are there any other questions, y'all? This is the opportunity. We'll take the next 15 minutes or so to take questions, and I'm going to drop the link one more time if anyone is interested in joining us up on this panel to talk live with Dr. Ninja Turtle about investing, saving, retiring early, financial freedom, or financial independence. I have dropped that StreamYard link into the chat as well. Or if you're a little camera shy, feel free, y'all. Y'all go ahead and let's use Queen. I hope you don't mind me doing this. Let's use that fire emoji and let's show Dr. Ninja Turtle that we welcome him into the Are You Locked In community, and we thank you for the wealth of information, Dr. Ninja Turtle, that you have provided us today. Y'all, let's light that chat up with some of those fire emojis.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to talk about one of my videos that I really want to do that I haven't done yet is the difference between your standard amortization, like what you would have on a home loan, and using a home equity line of credit or just a line of credit. I listen to landlord podcasts on YouTube, and what some landlords are doing is, instead of going to the bank to borrow money and getting, a 15-year loan, a 5-year loan, there are all these different years of loans, they are using equity in the properties that they already own and getting a line of credit from that and just paying cash for their next property. And so there's a difference between simple interest and amortized interest. And so I want to do a video about that and why some rental property owners. Oh, and before I forget, I'm just a mom and pop rental property owner. I'm not one of the big guys. So just so you know, I'm just a mom and pop. But anyway, I have friends that I've known over the years that have hundreds of, rentals, and I'm not anything like that. But they teach me how to go and get a loan from a bank. And they teach me how to have a personal financial statement.
Or your credit union. Check your credit union.
Yes, especially a credit union. I'm with a credit union now, right? Now, credit unions and small community banks, those are your two good places to go. That's just my own bias right now, what I'm saying. So just take this, what I'm about to say, as my own bias. I stay away from big banks because that's what my mentors told me to do. So I do not go to whatever their big names are, right? I don't do that. I stay at community banks. I stay at the credit union, and they are more likely to give me a loan because they know me. So I just wanted to share that. But yes, I'm going to move in the future to paying cash once I have some equity in my rental properties that I can use to just pay cash for properties, because I'm watching other people do it. And when I learn how they do it, I go, oh, I can do that. So that's what I do. So, and Gemini Diva said something a little bit earlier. Oh, there's Faith Marie.
There's Faith Marie Unscripted. Yeah. Faith, I hope you were here. Dr. Ninja Turtle was just talking about you, how you made use of ChatGPT and AI to determine the best time to go live. And wow. And you can also look into your analytics as well. That is one way that I found out. But you're right, Dr. Ninja Turtle. This Coffee and Conversations, we set this up at this time because it accommodated both of our schedules. And Kendi K will be working her full-time job late into the day to ensure that I'm on the quote plantation as well. So, but I hope to retire very early in 5 to 7 years, and emphasis on the 5. In the 5 to 7 years. And I plan to just make do, y'all, with whatever I have. And I'm going to make it work. And so that is helping me right now to reprioritize the things that I do and how I move and things like buying clothes and buying shoes. Yeah, when you get to be 49 years of age, I've got all the Nikes and I've already given all of the heels away, except for a few wedges, because I can't walk in them anyway. So, you just reprioritize things and life is much easier. And then I can do the things that I want to do, like go on a cruise in October. And, my birthday trip is still in motion and go with my college friend girls for a 30th reunion trip that we're going to take in March of this year, I believe, of 26. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I refuse to wait until I get 65. Nope. Nope. Now.
I have to jump in and talk while Faith Marie was still in the comments. Her channel is so... It's unbelievable, the amount of editing and the quality of her editing. And so when I started my channel, she is something. But when I started my channel, I was watching.
Hey, from Memphis now. That's that Memphis now. I'm not from Memphis, but y'all, this is where I grew up. I came to Memphis right after I graduated college. Many moons ago, many moons ago, and lived here over 20 years. And Faith's got that's that grit and grind of the Memphis Grizzlies, but it's all through Faith. You can see that her channel is phenomenal. So check out Faith Marie Unscripted. Go ahead, Dr. Ninja.
Yeah, and so I wanted to talk about the difference between hers and mine, because when I started watching hers, I was like, oh my God, right? But I made a decision when I started my channel to be like this one guy, Steve's Retirement something. But anyway, all he does, he just an old guy, sits in his backyard and just looks at the camera and talks. And I said, I could do that. Okay. I said, I don't know all of the software for the editing, but my whole channel started with me sitting in my garage, right, in front of my motorcycle. And I said, I'll just sit in my garage in front of my motorcycle. That will be like my brand. And I realized it's too hot out there. You know, in Alabama, it's too hot to be sitting in the garage trying to film. And so anyway, I moved it in here to my office. And so now this is what you guys see me sitting in my office chair because we have AC. But my channel will always be just very simple. I don't want to spend a lot of time editing. YouTube it's to raise money for charity, but it's a hobby. It's not where I'm going to do the side hustle income. And I love that people use YouTube for side hustle income. I love that. We didn't have that back when I was working like 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I've worked 5 and 10 jobs. Okay. In a year, I've worked a lot of extra jobs, like as a security guard, you know, on the midnight shift, right? I do whatever I can do to make extra money, but we didn't have YouTube. So I love that people are making money on YouTube. I love that. And I love seeing channels grow.
Yeah, I've been hustling. Yeah, that's one thing our daddy taught us is to hustle. And when I say hustle, you need several hustles. As a single woman, I am a single woman. You need several hustles. That means multiple revenue streams. Y'all, literally, kid you not, in undergrad, in college, I had 3 jobs. And first of all, I wouldn't even be in college if not for my academic full ride, right? Wouldn't even have been able to go to college. One of my jobs was working the intensive care floor at a hospital. Yep. And y'all, I would tarry all night long praying that nobody died on my shift. Think about how stressful that was for a college student. And y'all, that job stressed me so bad. But I was studying. I'll never forget it. I was studying Spanish, and Spanish, acquiring a second language as an adult, as you know, is quite difficult. And it was for me especially. And yeah, I would just pray all, and I would keep the census. Why do y'all have a college student keeping the official census of the hospital? That's how many people were admitted, how many people were discharged, how many people were born, and how many people died. And I did that on the overnight shift. Y'all, I hope that what we're trying to tell you, y'all, this did not come easy and it did not come overnight. This is a lifetime of learning more and making small steps in the right direction. So that we can do exactly what Life with T76 is saying. Live our life to the fullest. Living our life to the fullest. Y'all, thank y'all for joining in. Thank you all for rocking with us. This has exceeded my expectations. I've had fun today. Y'all, you can reach me for a live presentation on Wednesday morning. 5 things that we need to talk about. Y'all, don't forget to subscribe and like and set your notifications to all for Dr. Ninja Turtle and for Kendi K all day. Let me see what we have here. Oh, we've got some new connectors here. Shadow Scott Sweet is connecting with my channel. Y'all, I'm gonna leave it up so that everybody can try to capture some new content creators. Y'all, thank y'all for really locking into this. This has been an amazing stream. Dr. Ninja, thank you for this opportunity. And we're going to come down from this place. If all hearts and minds are clear, feel free to drop a question into the chat. And Azaleen, a beautiful name, Azaleen. I hope I'm saying that correctly. What a beautiful name.
Oh, she explained it yesterday. It was Jehovah saved me. Saved by Jehovah, I believe, is
Well, it's
Yeah,
no wonder. It's no wonder.
yes.
But that is a beautiful name. And thank you, T, for dropping my link, my subscribe link into the chat, as well as Dr. Ninja Turtles. Check out Dr. Ninja Turtle on Friday mornings on his channel at about 10:15 Central Time. That's 11:15 on Eastern Time Zone, and that's 8:15 in Pacific Time. Y'all have to do the math for all the other time zones. Y'all, thank you for riding and rocking with us. This has been great. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Goodbye for now.
Yeah.
And she's a talker. She talks so